trying to help the trainees get in touch with, which is what's going on in the felt moment, which is so fucking hard to do, is also something that I'm actually trying to do, and I'm having a fucking hard time doing it too. I can feel there's a part of me right now that is being so pulled away by my defenses and by a dissociative tendency inside of me to run away from how scary the experience of all this violence is inside of me. It's violent because I can't make sense of it. It's just like one feeling on top of another feeling. And it's violent because there's some force inside of me saying, don't feel it. Shut down. Shut up. Don't go there. Some awful thing that obviously happened with my mom and my dad. I'm calling that violence. It's like, don't show them that. Don't feel it. It's really, really intense. And I'm having to face that right now. I think I'm only just realizing or learning now actually how to deal with that violence inside of me. Isn't it a funny thing to say after working with these guys for 20 years, 25 years? I started working with Mitch in 1989. I was 29 years old. I know Chris probably since 1990. I know Roger since 1992 or something. I know many of you almost that long too. And I'm still realizing that I actually haven't come to terms with feeling into it in a depthful or a soulful enough way or a homosexual enough way what I'm calling violence, which is there's some pressure inside of me as I'm talking right now that wants me to go to sleep, to shut up, stop it, to soothe, to do other kinds of things, to think, to refer to my notes. And to not try and struggle with what is actually going on because it's scary. I mean, I feel like, well, I'm going to cry and I'm going to rage. Both of those feelings are happening at the same time. How is that possible? I think that's possible because I haven't had enough help yet to actually be able to regulate each one of those feelings, moment by moment. The sadness is there. I can feel sad for a lost opportunity for myself. And the rage is there, even though it's hard to get in touch with the rage is there. I can feel this like steely rage I'm imagining it's at a mother who's mushy and who's not there, who's not present, and who's not mirroring me. And then it goes away because she goes away. I have to really struggle hard to be in touch with that there's an object for my rage. That's the dissociation, that it's much easier to dissolve or dissociate. I almost have to force it a little bit, and that feels violent too. And I'm feeling fucking dizzy right now. I think that has to do with the fact that the kid's dizzy, the parents are dizzy, and the holding environment is dizzy at best and chaotic. And that is what it feels like inside. Or at least for a certain kid or for a certain complex, that almost feels so big that it's invading my ego, my sense of who I am empirically. It's so still unrelated to on a felt embodied level, that level of dizziness, of chaos, of violence. So I thought I would try, this is what we're trying to do in the Module A. Module B is invite the participants with our help to get in touch with their core process around their core trauma and how hard that is. But they're going to get a lot of help. Chris is there weekly with them in Module A with Dustin assisting, and Roger's with them weekly in Module B in the adjunct meeting with Dustin assisting, and I'm there once a month with Roger for 3 hours to get in touch with this level of experience so that it becomes more humanized, more embodied, not so dissociated, because there's some partnership between the ego and this horrible level of trauma that's not even been fully humanized in the slightest. That's why I think this is so intense and so remarkable what we're trying to do. It's not even known to exist, this level of feltness, by most people. It's not even understood. Talk about the problem of oppression politically. what subjective politics is. You talk about the oppressed, talk about the haves and the have-nots. This is a whole level of political understanding that is not understood by anybody. That there's an inner world, and there's this kid placed inside of me who's gotten a really rotten deal by the power mongers, including me as the main power monger. And he's been neglected by my parents, first of all, by my mom and dad, but by myself too. Even though I've done a lot of help, still so much neglect, so much chaos. So that is what I thought I would try and talk about, even though, even though it's really difficult. And I thought I would just try and model a little bit like how I struggle with the tendency to dissociate. Because I hide that at all costs. And I hide the rage behind the tendency to dissociate too. My colleagues don't often see me get angry. It has to be usually provoked through passive-aggressive bullshit. And I think it was important for me to talk about how injured I am and how I'm learning how to get more related to the injury, because there's something about my participation in the advanced training program that calls attention to that. Chris and Roger are more present in the training program than I am. Why is that? What's that about? I have to look at that. Why? Chris is there, Dustin is there, Roger is there on a weekly basis. Why am I not? Right? At first it's like, oh, don't, it's so busy. Had so many duties and so many obligations. I think that the real honest truth is though that in terms of handling some of these issues, Chris and Roger are more solid, are more together to a certain extent. I've hidden more in a way. I've had more ambivalence in a way about being gay-centered that I've hidden. And that's really important for me to out that, even though it's also embarrassing, but it's important to out that. I've had, I think, more experience than Roger in terms of being an activist, and I think I've had more experience than Roger in terms of running groups. But Roger is more solid, and the reasons for that are understanding that are really interesting. Roger is able to write saying, I'm not, even though I'm so wanted. So that's actually thrown a certain kind of light for me on my own core process. So it's been important for me to actually try and address that and do what I have to do in order to handle that. So
do you have feelings about that?
Do you have feelings about
what you're saying?
About which part? About not being as connected? Yeah, I feel embarrassed. I feel enraged.
Because that's been a big struggle for you to
Uh-huh.
come to terms with that.
Right. Oh, yeah. I'm trying to struggle with that right now. And sometimes what happens is I leave the office Friday nights, and you're working with the guys, and they're screaming at the top of their lungs, really loud, right? It's like, I hate you! No, I hate you! No, don't die on me! Don't die on me! And some really powerful relating is going on, and I'll feel a combination of mixed feelings. I'll feel like, whoa, I feel lonely, or neglected, or relieved. All of those feelings. I'm sure all of them have to do with how I was treated as a kid. I feel lonely, like, oh no, I'm not part of the group. Now I have to symbolize what that's about. Or I'm so fucked up, I'm never going to get any better, and I'm really hopeless. And why can't I get my act together? There's an underlying hopelessness there about that. That's really what I'm trying to deal with. Or some relief even too, which is also embarrassing. When they go, okay, I don't have to get fried tonight, or I don't have to get my shit looked at. That's, I think, a place where I've hidden. That's partly what needs to get talked about here in public. Why? Because I don't really want to be living that happy. I don't want to be hiding. It feels much better, actually, to be more real and to be expressing levels of trauma.
Some newer part of it wants to.
Right, some newer part of it.
Because if you say, I don't want to live that out anymore, then why are you continuing to live that out? Are you now not setting up that a stranger is making it.
Right.
If something happens,
Right.
you don't want to live out.
Right, it's an older car versus a newer car, yeah, right, otherwise, right.
Get a little
Doesn't
bit more
make any
into the
sense.
process.
Yeah. Right, some newer part.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, some newer part that's getting, partly I'm being fried by the advanced training program. It's having an impact on me. I feel like I'm both in the training program as well as a facilitator of the training program. And I feel profoundly moved and provoked into a more integrated reaction. It's instigated me to go back into therapy. I dumped my former therapist because she was not helping me really deal with the core process. And I got a new one who seems at least more able to get me real connected to the defensive problem right from the beginning and to stick with me moment by moment. So that's happened. There's been some other interesting effects of the training program. In part, I think it's helped me get a little bit more aware of how I have hidden my commitment to gay-centeredness in my professional life. So at Antioch, for example, it's been more clear to me, oh shit, I haven't actually been really clear about being LGBT-centered and psychodynamic. Chris has been real helpful, as well as I've been talking to Lauren about that and Thomas about that. How we can get a bit, why is it so that our program is so eclectic? That has to do with, I think, the violence inside of me that was secretly in cahoots with the social constructionists and the postmodernists because they are in cahoots with not dealing with their core trauma. So as I've gotten more connected to it, I've actually felt like, wow, this is such an important opportunity for me personally, for the trainees too, but for me personally. And I feel like, oh wow, it's a kind of a door opening. And I want to open that door more because even though it's scary and painful talking about all of this sort of infantile stuff, it feels better to do that. And it's also a relief not to go to the false self-thinking function.
Why does it feel better?
Why does it feel better? Because I think there's a lot of different
Why would
reasons.
you want to feel all this trauma that you want to run away from?
I think in the past I wouldn't have wanted to feel it. I think I was introduced with a kind of nihilism. I think I was colluding with the idea that I was too weak. I don't know, I feel my body more. Feels more honest. The feelings themselves are not as terrifying and as scary as my trauma would make me think they are. They feel like a life force. It feels like soul. It just feels more like me. Actually, I think that's another thing. It's who am I really? Who am I really? I'm not this thinking robot. I'm Doug. I'm Doug, and Doug has feelings. Doug is a person. I can almost feel like a little Doug too. And that feels a lot better to be more empathetic to him, and it feels actually very much more gay. I think relating to him feels like a homosexual brotherhood. There's some way about relating to him, having empathy for him. I think it's just about some way about relating to the body and the soul or something. It's homosexual. I feel that there's a body and a soul.
So when Freud called the libido erotic, he didn't mean that abstractly.
Right.
Everyone reads it that way.
Right, definitely. That's what that feels like too. Even in the midst of actually feeling really chaotic, it also has a quality to it. That feels really cool.
No. So many no-nos are being mentioned in normal discourse. These are no-nos. Families are raised no, churches no, politics no.
Absolutely.
Everywhere no.
Totally taboo.
All right. Broken many taboos yourself, though. Personal ones, cultural ones.
Yes, absolutely.
We're still being proper. No one's getting nude here. But nonetheless, more. It's conveying. I can feel it conveying something really interesting. Gradually, it's all accumulating. I'm starting, and the this wave is gradually moving across these guys here, kind of peeking with you, or tugging on the end. Aha, very interesting. That's been very stimulating. Yeah, is that it?
I think that's pretty much it.
Okay, for these starters, I've started out a bit of time here. That's really great and all that. It's been really great to give us the opportunity to have this sharing around such an obscure and arcane topic, in such an obscure and arcane way, as you guys have been opening a little window on. That's great. Thanks very much. I really appreciate that. I'm kind of wondering, as the three of you have been sharing, have any of you, besides anything that's gotten shared so far, want to ask any of the others of you any questions or make any other comments about anything any of you have said vis-a-vis each other or anything about the training program, or expand further on things that might be particularly interesting?